There will be dog barking. I was telling Jeranism. It's interesting because he and I are. I was muted the whole time there. Anyway, I was telling Jeranism that it's kind of an interesting meeting of minds because
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Episode number 3. We do have Dustin this time. It is Adam Green versus Dustin Nemos. Christianity, primordial, absolute truth, or Jewish propaganda and mysticism. Should be fun. We are going a little bit off the format that I've been trying to push here a little bit. These guys wanted a little bit longer of a debate, so we've lengthened it a little bit, and it may be a little bit here and there and herky-jerky, but it will go down nonetheless. Let's bring the guys on board. Welcome to the show. We've got first Dustin Nemos. Go ahead and say hello to everybody. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, nice to be here.
Sorry about the muting you during the intro. That was me doing that because you could be heard.
No,
so.
I did. Oops, sorry.
I saw you come back and yeah, it's all right. We
that rainstorm. We had Florida weather last time, so I apologize about the reschedule for everyone.
Well, we're happy that you're here, and it's going to be an interesting debate, so I'm looking forward to it. And then we've got Adam Green. Adam, go ahead and say hello. I'm sure people will remember you from last week.
What's up, guys? Adam Green with No More News. Appreciate you for hosting us, Jeranism. And Dustin, it's good to meet you. I look forward to this conversation on a very important issue.
Indeed. All right. Great. So I guess we're going to start out with introductory comments, and then we'll start out here. Actually, let me get this ready for you. We will do a quick flip of the coin. And let's see here if we can do this over here. Yeah. Somebody made a website, believe it or not. It's jeranism.fun. I don't know why they made this. They just heard about it, and it's actually just a coin toss website. So we're going to use it tonight. Jeranism.fun. If you ever need to do a coin toss and you don't have a coin with you, you can do it this way. Let me bring it up here. You guys can see it, and then we will go ahead and get started. How about this one? There you go. So who's going to call it? We'll have Adam call it. Adam, do you want Neil deGrasse or Bill Nye?
DeGrasse.
DeGrasse it is. Let's see what it is. It is.
You double NASA's budget.
It is Neil deGrasse. We got to double NASA's budget. All right, so you can choose to go first or second.
I'll go second.
Okay, that means you're up first, Dustin.
I'll take the final word.
Ooh, it's going to be the final word to Adam. All right, Dustin, you're up. You got 7 minutes. And oops, well, I don't have a clock ready for 7 minutes, so give me a minute, and I'll put that up there. But you can go ahead and start. And
Somebody create a clock act.
yeah, please, Jeranism.clock. We need that as soon as possible. Jaraclock.
Are we doing the intro and the claims and questions, or are we just doing the
No,
intro
just
right
intro now, and go ahead and do 7 minutes. So just kind of a high level overview of your position, I guess would be best.
now? Okay, real fast intro about myself, I guess. And I'm going to read from a script, so I keep it short. I have a tendency to ramble. I am Nemos. A lot of people know me as a reporter. I'm also, more recently, in the last few years, a man of faith and what I call a scientific fundamentalist. I was a former lifelong atheist, anti-theist. In fact, I hated religion. I thought it was the source of most of the world's problems. I went to public school like everyone else. I am many things to many people, depending on who you ask. I've worn many hats in my life. Fake news and the establishment hate me. Clickbait, alt media, and Jew gatekeepers fear me. And I've spent my life committed to the truth because my people perish for lack of knowledge. I'm the archivist at the Serapeum or Serapeum.com, which is a hidden history archive. And I'm host of The Silent War at NemosNewsNetwork.com. By trade, I was an investor that became a reporter, author, and historian, scholar, and father. And after pissing off the deep state, I found I had a pre-vax heart attack. I never vaxxed. And I've spent my time since preparing my family for the tribulation ahead and archiving the hidden history of the world that is disappearing and being rewritten from the internet at record and rapid speed for my children and everyone else's sake. So that is basically at theserapeum.com/his story revealed. That's a very high level collection of my work and basically my magnum opus and my life's most important projects all at once. That's what I want my children to read if something else happens to me. With that said, I've got 3 questions and 4 claims because that was the original format I had prepared for. I know it's going to be a little bit longer than that, so I may not need 7 questions. 1 question, and we'll get to it. I can rephrase it later so you don't have to remember it. What is your falsifiability threshold? And what would actually convince you to accept that you're wrong on your positions about Jesus and God? 2, how can something come from nothing? We're going to get into the fundamental logic of this and the arguments and rhetoric around it. And 3, what evidence do you actually have that Judaism created Christianity rather than opposed it? And 4 claims. Without God, scientism is what I call fake science, fake news and science, fails to comport to reality on reason and logic, evidence using the historical investigative method and the scientific method. And 4, that with God, only one religion on earth has miracles, prophecies, evidences all around us, and super synchronicity with reality and super accuracy with history, all pointing to Jesus, the miracle man who died and was resurrected. So there's really only one religion it can be, and religion has to be for multiple reasons, but fake science is fake science, and it's basically easily debunked fake news, including the globe Earth. So we can get into that if we really need to in terms of the atheist versus creationist science and arguments. But I would like to start from the position that there is a God, and it can only be Jesus and Yahweh. And the Jews have stolen that. They have actually committed basically identity theft. And they are in the Bible. They share the same history as we do, but they're on the opposing team. They are the children of the devil, literally the seed of the serpent. They are the Nephilim, the inhuman mutants or hybrid strains from the pre-flood world, the giants, or the elongated skull head monsters that we've seen at multiple child sacrifice ritual sites, at megalithic structures we still can't build today. And also, they are not obviously the Old Testament Hebrew Israelites who were their sworn enemies, blood enemies. And it goes all the way back to Genesis when there's a war between the creation of God, which is mankind, and the creation of these fallen angels, which is the Nephilim. Today people call them the Anunnaki, but in the ancient world they call them the Nephilim and the fallen angels. So that's basically my position. The Jews have switched it all around. They've stolen history. They've changed everything around. God promises their ultimate destruction in Obadiah 18, but they are actual demons, and that's why they're behind every single organized evil on earth throughout pretty much all of human history. That pretty much is my position, so I give it to you.
Okay, Adam, you got 7 minutes. Go ahead.
But when he goes back on, he'll have 500 viewers. I don't understand.
Oh, shoot. I wanted to set my alarm. Just a second.
Can you see the clock on the screen? You should be able to see it.
Oh,
If you can see my...
yes.
Okay,
Okay, restart it.
okay, you're good.
Can you do that?
Yep.
That's cool.
Knock it down one. There you go.
You already got a clock. Okay, cool.
Jeranism.clock. Somebody already created
All right. So, Torah Judaism, Torah Messianism, Moshiachism is the myth that's conquered the world. Half the planet believes it between the Jews, the Christians, and the Arabs, all the Abrahamic faiths, they all share so much in common, mostly the Torah and the Tanakh and the Hebrew prophets. They all believe Abraham had a covenant. They all believe that Moses got the commandments, Noah's Ark, Adam and Eve, all of the patriarchs. And it's really full spectrum dominance, and no other thing has dominated human history more the last 1700 years than Torah Judaism. And the whole purpose of Judaism, the whole purpose of Yahweh, the God of Israel, the God of Zion, is theological conquest and dominion over the nations, the Goyim of the earth. They want a one world religion. They want to eradicate all of the so-called pagan idol worship and have all of the cultures, all of the nations worship the God of Israel and his nation of priests. That is their mission and their destiny to accomplish, is have all of the nations become essentially Noahides and acknowledge the God that chose them. And the instrument that they have very clearly in the Old Testament and the New Testament to do this is God's Messiah, the Moshiach. And this is prophesied very clearly, straightforward readings. These are the mainstream interpretations of these things. That it's prophesied that the nations would worship the God of Israel. It happens with Christianity and Islam. The rabbis, official Orthodox groups, rabbis all throughout, and sages all throughout Judaism's history. And even the top sage in Judaism, Maimonides, says Christianity and Islam are God's divine plan preparing the world for the Messianic age. And Christianity, so rabbis are bragging about it, and Christianity and Islam are now today playing their roles as Ishmael and Esau to help manifest the end times prophecies, following the script, following the blueprint to achieve their goals of Zionism, which is really just Judaism. And they did this through Christianity and Islam. I'm going to share screens real quick here and show you just a few verses. Jesus is a fake midrashic mythical deception. He is the fake prophecy fulfilling Messiah that was started off as a celestial, heavenly redeemer, a mediator between God and the world, an intercessor, our minister or guardian angel in heaven, logos type of character, and then it was later euhemerized in the Gospels. But the earliest sects were having Merkaba mysticism, visions and dreams, and reading him from the scriptures. And they took this, Paul, the pagan to the Gentiles, took this and theologically conquered the world, getting the whole world to, through the Roman Empire, imposing Torah Judaism, Torah Messianism, and the God of Israel over all of the world. So am I sharing screen here yet? No, here we go. So very clearly, this is not debatable at all what the goal of Judaism is. Ezekiel, the heathen shall know that I am the all the Goyim shall know that I am Hashem. That was the ultimate goal all along. Christianity accomplished that. Tobit 14:6, all the Goyim shall turn and fear the Lord God truly and shall bury their idols. A big one, the messianic prophecies of Daniel, which is a known forgery, by the way. The vision of the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven. He was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. All nations and peoples, every language worshipped him. His dominion, this is what they want, was dominion, one world religion, according to their prophecies, rule over the whole earth with their Davidic dictatorship, Moshiach ben David, dominion over all the earth, and the kingdom from Zion, from Jerusalem, according to the prophecies. Even in Daniel 7, the Rashi, the top Jewish commentator, says, and he gave them dominion. That's dominion over the nations. For the heathen he likens to beasts, and Israel he likens to a man because they're humble and innocent. That is Christians. They are proudly calling themselves sheep and of the flock of the King of the Jews, who was the shepherd that was meant to conquer the Gentiles all along. Zechariah 14:9, the Lord shall be king over all the earth. In that day there shall be one Lord. And one more, Psalms 22, which is one of the top Psalms that they quote mined to create the Jesus story, says that the kindred of the nations, the Michipot of the Goyim, shall bow down in worship before thee. He is the governor over the Goyim. That's the goal of the Messiah. And Paul, who we have, hold on, how much time do we have? I can't see it. Can you just tell me?
145.
So Paul and the Christian sects that came before him, probably related to the Essenes, the Ebionites, the poor ones, the Nazarites, Paul, James, John, they were doing the same thing that Paul was doing. They were seeing him mystically, esoterically, midrashically in the scriptures, connecting similar scriptures. This was a popular genre of exegesis around this time in Judaism. And they were searching the scriptures for mysteries and revelations from God, to mysteries of what their redemption in the Messiah would look like. And this is what they did, was just from a couple books, a couple prophecies, they were able to connect the dots of similar themes in midrashic fashion. And you get the whole Jesus narrative from Daniel and Zechariah and Isaiah and the Psalms and Wisdom of Solomon and Book of Enoch. They had these prophecies in front of them, and they created a new story fulfilling these things of the suffering Messiah, Son of Man, who is to be rejected and go to the Gentiles. And like Joseph in the Old Testament, he is to rule over the Gentiles, be the power behind the throne after he's rejected by his brothers. So Paul says in Galatians, he did not receive the gospel. And mind you, half of the New Testament is supposedly written by Paul. Really, scholars believe there's only 7 authentic letters, but he never knew Jesus. The earliest sources we have of Jesus, and he didn't know him, and nobody did, because he started as a mythological character from revelation and from scripture. And
Okay.
he says it. Is that time?
Time. Yep.
Okay. I'll leave it there. I can leave it there for now.
All right, Dustin, we can start out with the questions portion, and it can be a back and forth, but get your question in first, and we'll go from there.
Okay. I'll share, so you can just read it if you want, Adam, or I can read it if you like.
Mm-hmm.
Right here are the 3 questions.
So go ahead and read the first.
So what is your falsifiability threshold? So what would it take to change your mind?
What would it take to change my mind?
Yeah.
Some type of miracles, some better evidence of extra biblical people seeing Jesus, reporting his things. Also, if the Gospels weren't written decades after the fact, not by eyewitnesses, by in Greek, where they're quoting the Septuagint. There's so many ways. I suggest you read the final chapter of Nailed by David Fitzgerald. He has a whole chapter of what it would look like if there was a historical Jesus. Just that alone, let alone if Christianity was real. But
If you have specific arguments, for example, and I'm sure you know, I can probably address.
If there was some evidence for God besides ancient scripture and supposed prophecy fulfillments, like, it's so much more simple an explanation that these prophecies weren't all fulfilled and all these magical miracle things happened, but just that some ancient myth maker storyteller, they're known for telling good stories, came up with some stories, and it's the myth that conquered the world.
Okay. Question 2. How can, and this goes, I know your position is atheism, right? Am I correct?
Agnostic, but definitely not believing in the God of Israel.
Do you believe that there is a God? Do you hold that there's a creator?
There could be. No, I won't argue for a creator. I think there's good arguments that there isn't a creator, but I don't rule it out. You just can't have complete certainty, and it's just, existence is such, appears so miraculous that I don't rule it out.
Fair enough. We'll try to stay out of that area, and I'm going to try not to have to prove God's existence, because that can be a totally different long-term debate. If we're going to stay into the Jewish, is it real, and the Jewish influence? I'll try
Jesus
to keep it
is Jewish too. I want to get into that a lot.
Sure. And my position, and I think Jeranism's position, is that it's a flat Earth. I call it a biblical Earth. I think it's more than just flat. I think it's also young and enclosed, and it's the geocentric center of the universe, and it's it's stationary or not moving. And I think that there's some other aspects to it. Anyway, I think that pretty much proves that there has to be a creator. That's how it was proven to me as a lifelong atheist. I realized that all the science around the globe Earth is bullshit. There's zero evidence in support of mass and all that. So
Flat Earth is what brought you to Christianity?
yeah, there has to be a creator. So I had to figure out which one it was. I looked in all of them, and the only one that has all these prophecies and history pointing toward it is this one religion. And all of the other religions, in fact, are actually on the opposing team, and they tell the same story. We'll get into it. Anyway, so we'll skip the proving God aspects. My other question was basically, what evidence do you have that Judaism created Christianity rather than opposed it?
Okay, well, Paul was a Pharisee. It was Second Temple Jews and people in that followed the Hebrew Torah that were circumcising and practicing in synagogues and waiting for a Messiah to save them from the Romans. And it's Christianity is all based on the Hebrew Scriptures. The people, the Messiah is the Davidic heir, the branch of David, the root of David. And David was the king of Judah. The people in Judah were the Judeans that were practicing Judaism. I mean,
Okay.
basically all scholars and all religious people will acknowledge that Christianity is a derivative of Judaism. I mean, it's to be the new
Or else.
Israel. You're building yourself
Or else.
on the old.
I would
Israel.
not.
To be the.
I would consider-
Okay. What were
I would
they
say I am
being
a-
grafted
consider myself
into,
that
if not Judaism?
So I want to get to it one at a time. So first, I'm going to put down a list here. Does Judaism come from that? Is this our rebuttal period, or should we wait?
No, I
for
mean,
that?
do you want to just acknowledge that you got the answers that you wanted for those three questions? At least preliminary?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we'll move to Adam
I got
asking
some
you.
notes I want.
Sure. We'll move to Adam asking you his three questions, and then we can go into the claims, and then you can comment on anything that you want there.
Okay, perfect.
So did you have three questions for him, Adam? Or any questions for him?
Well, yeah, I would start by saying, how could you possibly say that the character of Jesus was not Jewish?
Sorry, I was
Because I've got about 30 verses that clearly indicate that he is, and all Christians basically know this without even any question or hesitation. All scholars and everybody has always known that. I mean, it says
They're all wrong.
explicitly he's the king of the Jews. So your divine God-given religion, he sent his son to die in a blood atonement sacrifice and create a religion, and everybody's wrong. So you're just saying that God is a complete incompetent failure?
No, in the Bible it actually says, and Paul warns. Funny that we're talking about Paul. He actually warns, and I forget the specific phraseology, but I'm going to go off of memory here. Beloved, I would not that ye be ignorant of this, but forgetfulness has come in part upon my people for her sins. And that basically pertains to the story here. The white Caucasian Israelite race has forgotten who she is, and the enemy stepped in and stole her identity. The name stealers have
He's
stolen
talking
who
about
we
the
are.
Jews, though,
All
in that
historical
verse.
references to Jesus are a white guy.
When Paul says his people, he's talking about the Jews.
No, he's talking about the Judeans and the Yahudim. They actually put the word Jew in around the 1600s. That word was not in the original scriptures at all. This is easy to confirm. It's a big deception, and it falls apart like Swiss cheese when you actually look into their so-called claim. They don't fulfill any of the prophecies. They don't act like Abraham. They're not of Abraham, or they would fulfill his works. Jesus actually came rebuking them for their false teachings that were replacing the law, for the teachings of the elders, for the Talmud, which is their actual Bible. They don't follow the Torah. They never have. They spit on the Torah. They invert everything.
That's so false. They do not spit on the Torah. It's their most sacred thing. They're the people of the book.
They don't.
The Talmud
give
is
you specific
completely
quotes.
based on the Torah. It's interpretations and commentaries and arguments about the Torah. All
It
of my
rejects the Torah.
see, this is the problem with the
It
people
undoes
that
the-
won't.
Oh, let him talk. Let Adam go.
This is the problem with people that are only willing to criticize the Talmud, but not the Torah. Their supremacy comes from the Torah. Their whole agenda for the one world government comes from the Torah, the one world religion. Their anti-Gentile sentiments come from the Torah. None of that is in the Talmud.
Their
If you're not
claim
willing to condemn the
authority
Talmud,
comes
if you're not willing to condemn the
They don't
Torah,
follow
you're
it.
not a legitimate opposition to Judaism and to the Zionist agenda.
Okay, let Dustin go. Dustin, go. Finished answering that question.
Okay, so basically, they have always, and I'm going to share a screen here, they've always had the opposite actual doctrines from the actual Torah. They allow all of the things that are forbidden in the actual Christian religion and in the actual Torah. Here's
you're
an
backwards.
example of the difference in religion.
They're keeping
Judaism from the
kosher,
Talmud
they're keeping the Sabbath, they're keeping
Let him
the
finish,
circumcision,
Alex.
and Christians
Cursing
don't.
Adam, let him keep going just to finish this
They
answer.
approve of sodomy, child sacrifice to idols, cursing parents, witchcraft, bestiality, harlotry, blasphemy. They're not required to keep vows. They're actually allowing murder in their religion. In the Christian religion, it prohibits sodomy, child sacrifice, witchcraft, cursing, bestiality, harlotry, blasphemy, breaking of vows, and murder. All of that's it's completely the opposite religion. They're the same
Yeah, they
people.
twist it.
They're the cousins. They have the same history. We are in the same Bible. They're the giant Nephilim that were eating and enslaving us and killing our babies for blood sacrifice.
They're the shortest.
And we're the actual. It's a completely opposite religion that they keep. But here's the thing. Would you want to be the enemy in the Bible that took over the world, or do you want to sneak in and pretend to be the good guys? And that's what happened. They're the name stealers. They've always been known as the name.
This is so sad when I hear Christian identity people say this, that they're imposters that stole your identity. Like, this is God's plan to have a chosen people. You think you're the real chosen people, and his plan is to let the devil's children supposedly steal your identity. This is God's plan.
Actually promised in Scripture. It was all prophecy.
If anything, it's the Christians that aren't following the commandments of the Old Testament and keeping the covenant,
And
that they're
I
supposed
agree,
to
and
keep
we are-
everlasting.
I agree. We are required to follow those laws that Jesus died on the cross to bring us back to, after swearing not one iota would pass from those laws until heaven and earth passed. You absolutely are on the point. However, Christians have been taught by Jews that they're not supposed to follow it because it's Jewish.
And to
therein lies
explain
part of
those
the great
Talmud verses, I'll agree with you. Like, over the centuries, the Pilpul and the Talmud, and coming up with ways to scheme against the nations and, interpret their verses in ways, but still the core of their identity is from the Torah, not from the Talmud. Yes, the Talmud is very authoritative, and they study it a lot, but it's based on the Torah. If you're not willing to condemn the Torah, you're not opposed to the God of Zion. You are a Zionist, basically. And it's really sad when I see these Christian identity people. It's like they're spitting on their actual ancestors and traditions and cultures, and almost implicitly conceding that the Hebrews and the Jews are like the superior people because you want to be them so bad. You want to be Jacob. You want to have had stole the birthright. You want to be the one that rules the earth. You want Esau to serve you. You're not, instead of helping me and expose Torah and supremacy and the Moshiach agenda to rule the world, you're saying it's a good thing and you want to be it. I see it as a distraction.
There's two
Go ahead,
things
Dustin,
there.
finish that off.
First of all, I was an atheist. I had no particular agenda or bias here. I was an atheist against this. I didn't really want to believe it. Secondly, in terms of exposing them, I mean, you call them bad people. I call them the actual demons of the Old Testament. So there's no one here exposing them more than me. No one in the whole world.
That's not true. Stop. Hold on. Let me respond to that point, please. I'm saying that they came up with a psychological, religious, theological warfare deception, which I can prove very clearly with verses. You're coming up with something basically mirroring what they originally thought about us. It's them and their Kabbalah secrets that consider us evil and satanic and from the Sitra Achra, and that we're the seed of Satan and Satan is our guardian angel. And instead of helping me expose them for their supremacy and dehumanization of us, you're mirroring their craziness, providing them cover and giving them something to kvetch about for their victim status. You're becoming the villain.
Okay, I can respond to that. I can respond to that. So instead of helping me to expose their greatest lie, you're actually covering for it by going against our actual savior, the white Jesus, who was a real guy and who all references prove was a white guy. They stole our identity, and now they're trying to use it against us.
Adam,
let's the actual Old
let's go on to question two.
Giant heads and
Let's go to question two. We can come back to that if you want, but I think he sufficiently answered that first question. So go ahead, number two.
I want to share screen if I can find it. Shoot. Oh, there it is. Okay, sorry.
No problem.
It jumped around on me.
You're not. No, you're
okay,
right.
so you said when Paul is talking to his people, he's talking to. You said the Gentiles. I said he's talking to the Jews. In Acts 3:17, he says, "Now, fellow Israelites," speaking to the Jews who don't believe in Jesus, he says, fellow Israelites. So he says that the Jews, the Pharisees, are Israelites, not that they're Edom. So there's not one verse in all of the New Testament that clearly says that the Jews are really secretly Edom and they stole your identity. The whole crux, the linchpin of all of your theory. There's not one verse, but there's I just found about 25 verses that prove definitively that they are the Israel and they are the Hebrews and the Jews and the chosen people, and that your whole theory is just completely baseless.
You're going off of a fairly recent edition here. The original actual manuscripts did not use the word Jew at all. It used either the word Yahudim or the word Judean. Now, Yahudim is of a bloodline of the family of Judah, and Judean was a multicultural nation at certain points. So that's like saying an American Nemos. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, especially when you start thinking about multiculturalism. And that is a horrible translation anyway. However, Paul himself says he's a Hebrew and he is an Israelite. And the Pharisee were a political party and a religious party, of which came to be dominated by the Idumeans with Caiaphas and John Hyrcanus. John Hyrcanus.
So was Gamaliel? Was Gamaliel? Was he an Edomite? What?
I'll lose it. John Hyrcanus, the king, basically brought in the Idumeans, forced them to convert, and then treated them like Jews or actual Israelites from that point on. And then his son was betrayed by them and killed, and then they took over the priesthood and everything else with the help of Rome. And basically, from that point on, they were colluding with Rome in order to control the actual people of God.
It never calls them Edomites once, though. And we know that Herod had some Edomite blood, but that was just one person. He was the puppet leader of Rome, basically. That doesn't mean all the Pharisees, all the Sanhedrin are all secretly Edomites. Edom has always been, before Christianity took over Rome, they were already considered Edom. In all of the books in Judaism, it always identifies Rome and Edom with Christianity and Esau. You're going to say, oh, well, the Jewish Biblical Almanac says once that some of the Edomites are Jews. That you find one example out of context.
Actual religion. Yeah, not the actual original Christian teachings. Edom was the end time enemy, and prophecy speaks about how they'll rise up within, they'll take control, they'll be living. And
all of Judaism thinks that that's secretly Christianity.
Very specific prophecies that Jews are basically doing to screw Christianity today. All of that was prophesied in Old Testament.
Does Esau live by the sword?
Esau,
that's Rome.
Basically. And here's the understanding, and here's how it basically breaks down. You got Jacob,
Rome's birthright,
12 sons. You got his brother Esau, which became Edom, which mixed with the seed of the serpent, the Nephilim, the remnant giants.
Yeah, that's what all the Kabbalah rabbis say about us. Instead of making the point that you want to expose,
that's actually
you want to mirror what they say.
It.
Hold on, let me answer.
They're inverting.
Even of all of the Christian, and because the vast majority of Christians are all philo-Semitic and cursed if you curse them. Jesus was a Jew. They're God's chosen people, huge Israel supporters. But there's a small percentage that are so-called anti-Zionist, even though all Christians are Zionists. They still worship the God of Zion. But they're like anti-Israel. They're anti-Jewish. They give them their Esau hates Jacob victim status and delegitimize anti-Semitism. But even of all the Christian anti-Semites, your take is even just a small, minuscule fraction of that thinks, oh, they're actually the synagogue of Satan, or they're actually the seed of Satan and they're demons, which is actual anti-Semitism that dehumanizes them. How we should be exposing them for dehumanizing us and wanting to rule over us, but instead you just want to mirror it with an idea that's going to go nowhere and give them their victim status and just stop us from exposing the Judeo deception takeover.
Adam, look at your second question again. Hold on. Look at your second question and just make sure that you ask for a clarifying point.
Okay. I thought I was on the screen. I'm not on the screen.
I need a response.
Okay, go ahead. You can respond.
Well, okay. So clarify
you're falling for Jewish propaganda. Okay. They have inverted everything. They are the actual Old Testament demons. They have their prophecy to be destroyed in Obadiah 18, where all Edomites, not a single one, will remain. They won't even speak Yahweh's name. They say Hashem, which translates roughly to Asmodeus. They are worshipers of the devil. Many of them admit this.
Hashem means the name. Hashem means the name. They admit
everything but
they
Yahweh.
Don't secretly think they're Edom. You know that, right? Instead of just exposing what all the rabbis are saying, what all their scriptures.
Many rabbis admit it. Let me finish.
No,
I
they
can
don't.
show you.
No,
Yes, they
no
do.
rabbis think that they're secretly Edom and Esau, dude. I'm telling you, they all think it's the Gentiles in Christianity. Yes,
That's not true at all.
the
Okay,
fact
so
that you're like
I'll-
denying that means you're like denying the biggest threat of prophecy and threat of Judaism by denying that.
No, they are
Mhm.
basically it's the greatest case of identity theft in human history. Can I share screen?
And that just comes off as so pathetic. They stole our identity. When did you just stop circumcising
argument.
and forget that you're the real chosen people? Hold on, isn't it
That's
still
not an
my
argument.
questions? I only got one question out.
Yeah, it's still, you haven't done your third
I
one
just
yet.
want to respond.
But here's what we need to do.
I mean,
I
I'm
didn't
going to give
even-
you some specific quotes
second-
about rabbis saying it if you want.
Well, we're still on the second question.
And
Adam.
I could show you thousands. I could show you thousands all over their scriptures about that we're Edom and Esau. And instead of
That's what they
exposing
teach
that,
now. They
you want to
teach-
just mirror
Oh,
it,
yes.
and then so we're not exposing it. Okay.
If-
You want to
if God
become the
Almighty
villain
says
in the
you'll be
story.
destroyed and you're the enemy, then you
everything
don't want to
that
be
I have
identified as that.
Everything that I expose Judaism and rabbis for, you're saying is true and it's a good thing, and it's really the white people. Realize how much of a distraction that is?
and through-
How that
and through
strategy
miracle and
is just
prophecy,
completely
it's
dead on arrival. It's heading down a dead end. It's just like QAnon. It's a dead end.
You have no arguments because there are
I
no
do, and
actual
it's still my
historical
turn to
scholars.
question. Here come my argument.
Even atheists admit Jesus was real.
so let's
No,
go.
They just
even Bart
converted
Ehrman. Yeah, there's a big cover
They
up
all
in all
admit
the kosher academia that's been dominated by Christians and Jews.
Adam,
that
read
they
your-
don't want the
Every
truth to
historian
come out that
Re-
Jesus is actually a deception. Then people would go like, "Oh, he's a
Wait.
myth." Well, who came up with that and why? And then you read the scriptures
Wait.
and it's just blatantly
Time out.
obvious.
Time out.
why.
Adam, I want you to read your second
Condemnation.
question
Every
again.
historian was wrong.
Hold on, Dustin. I want
Did you
him to
say
read
every-
his second question again. I want to make sure, see if I think you answered it sufficiently. Read your second question, Adam.
My second question is still my first one. I want to talk about how could Jesus not be Jewish?
No, he answered that one sufficiently. What's number two?
No, he did not answer it sufficiently, because I have verse after verse that he has to explain for that clearly says that he was Jewish. Did he freeze or something?
I think so. No, I meant
Oh.
that he gave you his
Sharing
response
his
for it.
screen, so I can't share my screen right now. And he might have froze.
I think he froze because I don't think. Let me stop sharing. You can try again. Let me see. Usually people don't freeze like that, though. I've never really seen that.
It's weird. It's like it's taking up my whole screen right now
Yeah,
too,
I'm trying to stop it here. View option, stop participant sharing.
and I can't see.
And it's still frozen on the share screen.
there we go.
Oh, now he's gone. Wait, no, he's not. Hold on. What happened here? What happened here? What's participants? It's just me and you. All right, we'll give him a second to come back. Let me see if I got anything I could play here. Some sort of ad or something. And I'll text him over here. No, I guess the point of the questions is that you get to ask a question, he has to answer it. Now, if you feel that he answers it falsely,
Well, I
or-
get a rebuttal. Like,
Yeah.
how about like I bring up a topic and ask him, and then
Yep.
like have a little bit of a line of questions, because I've got verse after verse that clearly show, without question, that the character of Jesus is Jewish and was coming to the Jews. So like with a couple verses, I could easily disprove his whole shtick. He's got no verses that.
Well, that's what you're going to have to do. So after we get through these questions, then if there's points in the questions that you think he's false, you'll have a chance to present that and say, here's why he's wrong about that. Because you have to admit, we're not going to get to a point where he agrees with you. So it's,
I hope so.
Well,
I
let's
hope
see.
he agrees with me,
oops,
because
you guys switch sides. Let me fix
the
it.
approach that he's doing right now is counterproductive.
All right. So your second question was what? Because we had already moved on to the second question. You had asked it, but I don't remember what it was.
We're still talking about it. How could you say Jesus is Jewish, giving all these verses?
So what's your second question? Because I thought you read it already.
No, we're still on my first question.
Okay.
We got
There's
completely
many
sidetracked.
arguments.
Sounds good.
I've written some anthropological articles about this.
Oh, this is my question time.
Well,
Let
you
me
asked me,
present.
right?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Ask question number 2 then. Oops, what happened?
Okay, I'll just ask the same question. How can you say that that you're the real Jews given these verses when Jesus was the King of the Jews? Okay, here we go. It
Same
says
answer.
you're sharing again.
Same answer.
Dude,
This is it. I don't have
no.
anything. I mean, I have a lot of other things.
My question is going to show a couple verses before I just ask a question and then let him give
Okay,
his
go ahead.
Okay, go ahead and show. You
his
share.
propaganda answer. Okay. All right.
answer.
So Who was it that was wanted to be redeemed in Second Temple Judaism before Christianity? Who was waiting for a Messiah, a Redeemer, to come and conquer the nations and the Gentiles and the Romans? Who was it? It was the people that circumcised, that followed the Torah. It was the Jews. They used to be called the Hebrews, and then the Israelites, and then later on it was Judah, the Judeans, the Jews. Even though you semantically try to differentiate and have some nuance that's not there, it's clearly the Jews. John 1:11, Jesus, he came to which was his own, but his own did not receive him. How can Jesus come to his own, which are the Jews, and not be the king of the Jews, not be the Jewish Messiah? This one verse alone proves that they're the Jews and that Jesus is the Jewish Messiah and that they rejected him. You can't reject something that wasn't yours to begin with. One more verse, two more verses. 2 Corinthians 11:22, Paul says, speaking of the Jews, are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they the seed of Abraham? So am I. So this two verses alone, and already your theory's out the window. Dead on arrival. The debate's over.
Okay, your turn to answer that.
Dustin. Let me give one more. You say, how did Christianity come from Judaism? Well, Galatians 1:13, Paul says his previous life was in the traditions of his fathers, the Israelites, Judaism, advancing in Judaism, the traditions of his followers. He says he is a Jew, born in Tarsus, trained under Gamaliel, who was the head of the Sanhedrin. You don't think that's Jewish? Fellow Israelites. So the Israelites are Jews. Paul's a Jew. Is Paul a secret Edomite? Is Gamaliel a secret Edomite? Christianity started in the synagogues. Okay, I'll let you respond to those.
Dustin, you have 2 minutes to respond to that.
Okay, so this is a very in-depth answer. However, you can easily discern this for yourself. The original manuscripts did not use the word Jew. This is part of the Great Deception, and when you find this out, it breaks down a lot of other things. And certain parts of the Bible don't even make sense anyway. It's kind of how they took out the word Yahweh, God's name, over 6,000 times and replaced it with the Lord, which is Baal in English, by the way. Anyway, the Jews admit it. Strictly speaking, I'm going to share the screen as I read the quote. Strictly speaking, it is incorrect to call an ancient Israelite a Jew or to call a contemporary Jew an Israelite or a Hebrew. This is from the Jewish Almanac. Jews began to call themselves Hebrews and Israelites in 1860 from Encyclopedia Judaica. And Edom is called
Yehudi Judeans.
In Talmud, their religion is to deceive us. They are basically
with Christianity.
Burn everything.
No, that's the deception with Christianity.
By changing Christianity.
No. The deception is when Jacob dresses up and pretends to be Esau, pretends to be the scapegoat. They stole our birthright. They stole the birthright of the firstborn empire, Edom, when they took their birthright and replaced it with worship of the King of the Jews as their God, when they theologically conquered Rome.
Okay,
Yahweh is the original God, the original creator that Adam and Eve and everyone else after that, until basically the fall of the Thracian Empire and then the rise of Sumerian false religions, which were basically based on the Nephilim worship of the fallen angels of Genesis 6. And that's where you get all the Anunnaki and ancient aliens bullshit about giants coming from aliens. They came from fallen angels. They had giant heads. They were giants. They ate us. Goliath was real. Jesus was real. It was all real. It's provable. Miracles and provable prophecies like Sodom and Gomorrah, pure sulfur balls sticking out of the mountainside, unnaturally pure. An entire mountainside, an entire civilization of multiple cities nuked, basically a wasteland of basic glass and ash. People standing beside them, the buildings were incinerated from basically hip down where the wall was, and there's just a little burnt nub of spine sticking out. This is the kind of evidence that the archaeologists are actually proving God is real. All of the stuff in the Old Testament was real, but they stole our identity. They were in the Old Testament as Edomites. They're in the end times as Gog and Magog, who take over Christian nations from within, destroy us, pervert everything, and try to take us away from God. They're behind the Great Deception, fake science, the whole globe Earth, evolution, vaccines, all of that bullshit. It's all fake, and it's all to control, kill, or deceive and lead us away from God.
Okay,
And they
let's-
basically trying to take over since. And they've used the Holocaust and this argument, this lie, this Jewish propaganda that they are the chosen people of God, that they are the ancient Hebrew Israelites. They're using it as a weapon because they know that Christians give a shit about the Bible. They don't. They follow the Talmud, which hates the Bible.
Okay, Adam, question number 3.
Completely absurd to say that.
Prove-
The
test
Talmud's the Talmud. I mean, they have some interpretations on the Torah to work to their advantage, but it's all based on the Torah. They recite the Torah in Hebrew far better than any Christians know. It's
Fake Hebrew,
completely
Yiddish.
absurd. It's completely based on the Torah. Their supremacy
Fake
comes
Hebrew.
from the Torah, and the fact that you won't condemn the Torah makes you just a Torah Judeo-Zionist apologist, in my opinion. This whole
I say
thing
they're
about
demons, dude.
hold
You
on.
can't say that
Can we go to
me.
question 3?
Let me ask the question.
Yeah, question 3. Go ahead.
They stole your identity. So when did you just forget that when did the true Israelites that went up to Europe supposedly just miraculously forgot that they were chosen and stopped following the commandments and circumcising and all of this stuff? And then all of these fake Jews secretly converted and stole your identity. And it says this nowhere clearly in the Bible at all whatsoever. But I just have verse over verse saying that God is the God of the Jews and then the Gentiles. And Paul was a Jew and Jesus was the King of the Jews. And he was handed over to the Gentiles. Like,
No.
what you're proposing is so fringe and baseless.
I realize that.
It's
It's fringe, but not for long. The seed war is the truth, and people are waking up to
No.
it as they
The
realize
seed war-
Jews are in control of everything and they're demons. It's all real.
You
And by the way,
realize that
this is not
the big
recent.
secret.
This is an
the
ancient Christian
conspiracy that
teaching.
we should.
This is
How
an
can
ancient.
hold on. This is so important. How can we condemn the supremacist rabbis for thinking they're chosen to rule over us, and that we're all meant to serve them, and that we're the seed of Satan, like they believe? How are we supposed to expose them for that when you're just saying you are that and you want the same thing? You're just like canceling them out and like running cover instead of exposing them.
God has a favorite people. That's true.
No,
But they've let him down a bunch of times.
and
those
the whole
people
world
were
thinks it's the
punished.
Jews because of Christianity.
And those
So,
people were punished. The
great
Jews don't
plan.
even
It's
claim
working
to be
out
all
real
the
great.
tribes. The Jews claim to be one of the 12 tribes. The other 13 tribes, because there was a double blessing. The other tribes are lost. They claim to be part of a tribe that should have a multitudinous seed. They're not. They're not Abrahamic. They're only 2% or less of the world population. They claim to be the tribe that fulfilled all these prophecies. They didn't. One tribe, actually, 12 tribes, did fulfill the prophecies. They claim to be the fulfillment of coming back into their land. Actually, 1776 is the exact fulfillment of the prophecy of the tribe of Israel of Manasseh coming back into their land. America is the tribes of Israel coming back into their land, exactly according to prophecy and date, exactly according to many other prophecies that are also easy to prove in terms of historical or actual physical evidence of some of the miracles, like I said, with Sodom and Gomorrah, or the flood, worldwide flood. I mean, fish bones atop every mountaintop in the world, for example, all sorts of other things like the Great Inconformity. We could just go on and on and on into the actual evidence.
Well, let's
for-
go to claims because we go out of time here, but I think claims will be good. You can make a claim.
Hold on. How can you say that they're Esau fulfilling prophecy? It says Esau will live by the sword and serve your brother. And the Christians are now the Noahide servants of the Jews. They're the Roman Empire used the sword and lived by the sword in wars to spread Torah messianism all over the world. And you
Torah
still I
The
can't
opposite of
hammer
Torah
enough how
They're opposite religions. There's no more religion on earth.
they're
more
not. They're
opposite.
both Torah
Isn't
messianism. They're not opposite religions.
no
They
more
have
opposite.
everything in common. They've got basically everything in common. Minor differences.
They have not. They're the opposite teams of the same.
No,
story.
you're mirror images. You're two
They're the
Jewish
opposite
sects
team.
fighting. You're two
Same
Jewish
story.
sects fighting over who the Jewish Messiah is.
They're opposite teams of the same story. They're Edomites infiltrating as Khazari, Edomite, Khazari, and Idumeans infiltrating as Israelites.
Khazari is disinfo. Khazari is kosher disinfo.
Khazari was an actual nation,
To
dude.
misdirect,
It
to
had
take the
a ton of
focus
evidence.
off the Torah Judaism conspiracy, the
Khazari
Abrahamic
is
deception
infiltrating.
that's conquered the world. You want to blame the Khazarians?
Let's
instead,
move
Khazari
to-
is
or-
a small part of it. It's
Let's
a
move
small
to
part.
claims, guys. So you're going first, Dustin. I want a claim followed by some evidence.
Hold on.
Okay. What's
Are
that?
we already on? I'm not done.
No, we're gonna have the back
There's-
and forth.
We
there.
can't just skip
I'm
over
not-
the Jesus is Jewish part because there's so many verses clearly
So,
showing Jesus
in the
is
claims
a Jewish
section.
character.
In the claims section,
Israelite.
go ahead and say that you can make the claim that he's Jewish, and then
You just
back it
change
up
the
with
word to
evidence,
Jew-alike.
and then he'll have to
That's it.
refute that. So that's what you
No.
want to do there.
Judean, Jew, it's the same thing. The
No, they
Yehudis.
just changed the word. It's not the same thing.
No, you're playing a semantic game
You
to try to trace a false
you can't say
distinction.
Adam Green is an American. You can't say a green American is the same thing. You can't do that. It's a nationality and a physical family bloodline, a genealogy. Those are two totally different things. You can't just mix them. It doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, you should be exposing the supremacist rabbis for thinking they have the chosen
I do.
bloodline,
I
not
expose them as big
mirroring, not becoming the villain and the
You should
bad
help me
guy in the
expose them
Jewish
as
story.
demons. You should help me expose them as demons. And help me
Romans
praise their
1:16.
greatest
No,
enemy.
I'm
The
exposing
greatest Jew-namer of all
them
time, Jesus
and their
Christ.
Torah supremacy, thinking that we're demons.
The greatest Jew-namer of all time was Jesus Christ. He rebuked him. He provoked him.
He said
taught them
salvation is of the Jews.
of the
Paul says
Israelites.
in the end, all of Israel will be saved. He
changed
says,
the word,
he says,
man. That's
have
what
they
they
been?
fake news.
Have you even read the Bible?
Okay,
Or
let's
do you just
go-
watch like
let's stop
Christian
real quick.
identity documentaries?
Let's stop real quick. Let's go to claims and
Okay,
hopefully-
here's my claim.
Hold on, Adam. It's not your turn.
Jesus-
It's not your turn. Hold on. It's not your turn. Dustin, make a claim. Back it with evidence. And then Adam, when it comes to your turn, you can make that claim. Jesus is Jew, and then he's got to refute it. You can back it with evidence. So go ahead, Dustin. Your first claim.
Okay, I'm just going to read through my article here. Again, I already gave you a couple of quotes.
You got 2 minutes. Go ahead.
The word Jew replaced the words Judah, Judahite, and Judean, and of course that was originally a little different, like Yahudim. But the words are
So did the
harder.
Jews kill Jesus? then?
My turn.
It's only they're only Jewish when they're killing
Judah
Jesus,
was-
but when it's salvation is of the Jews, then they're not
My
Jews.
turn.
Okay, wait for his claim.
Okay.
Let me
What is your
finish. This
claim?
is a complicated topic. I need time.
Do you have a claim title, like a
Be
topic? Go ahead and give me the claim.
Judah was the fourth son of Jacob and Leah. Judah is the territory of Judah. Israelites of the house of Judah are called Judahites. A Judean is a citizen of Judea. It's extremely confusing for the unlearned, but in the Old Testament, the incorrect word Jew never identifies a Jew. It always identifies an Israelite of the tribe or house of Judah. Jews are not Israelites. They are Edomites. In the New Testament, you must understand the context to understand who was Judah and who was Jew. Since the land of Judah and the land of Idumea were merged into the land then called Judea in the 1st century BC, a Judean could then be an Israelite of the house of Judah or an Edomite Jew of the house of Esau from Idumea, what the Bible calls Amalek, the enemy. This word Jew is not a mistake. It is a deliberate tampering of scripture. The result is that the world and the churches believe the Jews are Israelites, which they are not. The Hebrew word for Judah, which is Yahudah, was replaced in the 18th century or a little bit earlier with the word Jew. This happened as a result of over 14 centuries with the variations of the Latin word Iudius. But of course, there's a lot of corruption within the Jewish controlled Roman church as well, especially after the Jesuit Jewish order took over and increasingly on after that. But as early as the inception of the Catholic Roman government, because it was completely pagan and meant to subdue and merge paganism with Christianity from its inception, Constantine, the emperor, was himself a lifelong pagan, not a convert. It was a lie. And they basically just changed the calendar, got rid of Sabbath, put it on the wrong day, mixed in Easter and Christmas and all this other stuff that's basically blood sacrifice, pagan idolatry, and then call it Christianity and killed all the other Christians for it. Just like the Jews, just like the Muslims, which they then created to keep killing Christians after they themselves pulled back from killing Christians. But I
Okay, time.
digress.
So
Plenty of studies to prove this, but here are just a couple of quotes that I already gave you. I'll skip that part.
no time. You got time. It's 2 minutes now for Adam to respond to that.
You've got one quote in a Jewish almanac that says some of the Edomites probably mixed with the ancient Israelites, which it probably did happen. Two nations next to each other that are intermingling. To say that the Jews secretly are really Edom and they're pretending to be Jacob is just the most ridiculous conspiracy. Instead of just addressing reality,
Argument.
Wait.
it is an argument. And here, I'm going to share now. If I
Ad
can-
hominem.
Oh, you got to stop
I can
sharing.
stop him.
Ad hominem.
Thank you.
It's not. It's actually an argument.
Ridiculous, not an argument. Prove it.
Saying something ridiculous is not ad hominem. Ad hominem would be like, you've got a fedora on, so you're wrong. That would be
Okay.
an ad hominem.
So you basically, it's still a logical fallacy because you're trying to say that it's ridiculous and therefore it's wrong.
No, will you at least acknowledge that in all of the scriptures and all of the writings of the Jews, that it's overwhelming everywhere that Christianity represents Esau and Jesus represents Esau and Edom, and America in the West is Edom and Rome?
Because for the past 200 years, they've been switching the identities and inverting it so that they could take over our nations from within. They've convinced us with their God's chosen people.
No, they
That's
took
why
over
they
our
were-
nations through Christianity by getting us to worship
Nope.
the Son of God
Christianity
The whole purpose of the Messiah was to conquer all the nations, to conquer the Gentiles, to be the pagan to apostle to the Gentiles, to be the light into the nations.
They reject. Nobody hates
Yeah.
Jesus.
You think you're the real Jews, but the Messiah is meant to conquer the nations, not the Jews. According to Scripture, he's to be rejected by the Jews. You should be thanking them for sacrificing your God so you could be saved with his blood atonement scapegoat sacrifice.
Adam, I would say that it's equally ridiculous to think that the Jews promote Jesus. They hate Jesus more than anyone
There's
else.
so many Messianic Jews. Christianity was started by all Jews. They secretly believe in
Israelites.
total Yeshu, that Paul and Peter were secret double agents and crypto Jews.
Well, they write a lot of
created
propaganda.
Christianity.
But you should
Maimonides, the top rabbi in Judaism, says that Christianity is God's plan to convert the nations to be Noahides and worship the God of Israel, which they did.
Never trusted you.
Never, but you worship. Your whole book is written by Jews. Yeah,
No,
the
they
New
changed the
Testament is written
words.
by Jews. Paul
They
was a
changed the
Jew.
words because they hate him.
No,
They hate God's name. They took it out. They wanted to be
your
God's
God is really inept if he creates a
words.
religion and lets the devil's children steal your identity and nobody knows the truth. It just doesn't
Adam,
seem very divine to me. It seems like a total
anyone can
mess.
confirm that this word was changed for themselves versus originals.
Okay.
Anyone can confirm this.
Okay, Adam,
All
you
right.
can go ahead. You got 2 minutes to make a
All
claim.
right. Romans 1:16 says, to the Jew first and also to the Greek or the Gentile. So Jesus was the king of the Jews coming to the Jews. Example 1,
Right.
John 4:9, the Samaritan woman who's a Gentile said to him, to Jesus, you are a Jew. John 4:22, Jesus says, Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. Jesus says, salvation is Jews. Matthew 2:2. When Jesus is born, they say, where is the one who has been born king of the Jews? And it talks about the star prophecy, the messianic prophecy of Numbers 24:7, where it says, a star will come out of Jacob, the scepter will rise out of Israel, Edom or Rome will be conquered, and Amalek will be destroyed. Israel will go strong. Genesis 49, Judah, your brothers will praise you. The scepter will not depart from Judah. Jesus is the scepter in Psalms 110. The Lord says, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies, the enemies of the ancient Jews were the Gentiles, the Romans, a footstool. They conquered the Romans. The Lord will extend your mighty scepter from Zion. Jesus from Zion saying, rule in the midst of your enemies. Who does Jesus rule over? Gentiles, the nations, the Goyim. And also you are a priest forever. And that's Melchizedek, Jesus. He will judge the Goyim. Exactly what it's about. Psalm 2:9 says, you will break them with a rod of iron, and that in the Septuagint is iron scepter. Jesus is about conquering the nations and the kings of the world for the Jews, for the chosen people. Jesus is the king of the Jews also, Matthew 27, placed above his head. Jesus is circumcised. It wasn't the Gentile.
He might have frozen. now.
Did I lose you?
That or he's in a Mitch McConnell state right now. It could be. It looks kind of like it if you think about it. You get 2 minutes to respond, and I will stop the screen share just to see if we can get him back here.
Okay. Should I go ahead and start then?
Yeah, go ahead. I don't know what happened to him. You're fine.
Okay,
Go
he'll
ahead.
be back. I'll just kind of keep it busy until he gets back, and then we'll let him pick back up.
Well, no,
basic-
his claim had ended, so it's on to your response.
Okay.
There he is. He's back.
Okay. All right.
Well,
go ahead and finish.
you're muted. Hold on. You were gone for a second there, Adam.
Let him finish his thought.
Adam, you were gone for a second, and you're muted now. There you go.
Okay.
You had froze for a
Finish this
second.
one.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so the New Testament doesn't say they're secretly Edom and they stole our identity. It says the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat.
Okay.
And then it says, last one, what advantage then hath the Jew in their circumcision? It says they were committed the oracles of God. They're the nation of priests. They speak for God. They become God. And they become gods elevated to a divine status in the vast majority of all Christianity today. And it's not an accident.
Okay, so you got 2 minutes. Go ahead and respond to this then.
This is not a perfect image, but it's a whole lot more accurate than the official history. I realize this is a fringe idea, and I realize that most historians would disagree with me, and most theologians would disagree with me because they're afraid of losing their entire careers calling out the Jews. You know how that is.
That's true.
You know how they rewrite history and basically present a bunch of fake news. If I were to take a copy of the Bible and take out the word Jew everywhere and put in the word libtard feminazi, then you could say that a whole bunch of things about the libtard feminazis are miscorrect, or they're trying to take over the world or whatever as well. This is basically what they did. They just changed the word a bunch. This is easily verifiable versus original manuscripts. So it is actually testable. You can test this. We don't have to spend a ton of time on it. We can if you like. They do admit in many sources that they are Edomites and that Edom is in modern Jewry and that they are actually Edomites who worship the Talmud and do not keep the Torah. And the Talmud is their primary religion and it's the lifeblood of their community. And I'm just sort of remembering a couple of snippets of quotes off the top of my head. And we could just go into that. But basically, they are themselves Talmudic devil worshippers who claim they heard something that was orally passed down for thousands of years, and then they finally published it. Jesus referred to it as the teachings of the elders. He rebuked these seeds of the serpents who had basically taken over. And as I said, there is no more opposite religion on earth than Judaism and Christianity. I mean, Judeo-Christian makes as much sense as Satano-Christian in my book. In terms of what Jesus had to say about them, I mean, like I said, he's the greatest Jew namer of all time. Here's some examples. John 8:44, where he calls them the children of Satan. Revelation 2:9, where he calls them the synagogue of Satan. Revelation 3:9, synagogue of Satan again. And this is basically sort of an inverted, and this meme is sort of meant to poke fun at Christians who don't get the idea that there's a synagogue of Satan. And it can still be used to sort of poke fun at those who are sort of pushing the idea that Christianity is for the Jews in some sort of benefit, because they are complete opposites. We have opposite messiahs. They're trying to outlaw Christianity. And they hate Jesus and Christians. They spit on us. So, I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense to argue that
Somebody have sound playing or something?
Anyway, in fact, all of the things that they want to do are basically forbidden by Christianity, and they have to sort of overcome our culture in order to make it allowed. For example,
Is that one of you guys? What's that sound?
Not me.
Somebody's playing music or something?
I hear you, like, your voice has changed like a robot.
Right now?
Yeah,
Not anymore.
Oh,
You're good now.
I thought somebody was playing something. Okay, sorry, go
You got a
ahead.
soundboard or voice changer or something?
Yeah, but it shouldn't be on, and I've checked it's not
You
even
might have
open.
accidentally clicked the button and like
Probably had like some sort of keybind on or something.
Yeah.
All right,
I've
so
done that before.
But did you guys hear me okay?
here we are
I
now.
was hearing you, yeah.
So you guys can go back and forth if you want on this subject.
Yes.
You have about 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Please. Okay, so I mean, are you really going to deny Christians aren't the greatest allies and accomplices and enablers and supporters and defenders of Israel? Look at all the vast majority of Christianity today is completely Zionist and being more Judaized. And you just want to say that you're totally different and the only threat. They love the fact, I've documented this with rabbi clip after rabbi clip. They love the fact that all the Goyim are worshiping their Messiah, their God of Israel, becoming almost perfect Noahites besides the Trinity.
Their
And-
Messiah is not Jesus. That's pretty clear.
No, he's their anti-Messiah. This is why they don't like him. He's the villain Messiah. He's the adversary, satanic Messiah in their story. And believe it or not, those verses that you cited are out of context. Revelation 2:9 and 3:9. Let me share here. Those are actually secretly being directed at a church, and they're saying that these people are consuming food to idols, which is how they describe Christianity, because Christianity doesn't keep kosher. And if I actually read the rest of that verse, you can see that's actually cryptically, the Kabbalists have always secretly viewed Christianity as Esau, and Esau's guardian angel is Samael or Satan. They say they curse Jesus and they spit on him, or they spit towards Christians, because he is the scapegoat that represents Esau. He is Jacob dressing up in the goat skin of Esau, pretending to be the Messiah of the Gentiles that's actually working to undermine and enslave the Gentiles. He is the trap and the curse to psychologically and theologically conquer the Gentiles. And what do we have? 140 left. Here's green. Just a few more to hammer this point home. Paul says in Romans 11, as far as the gospel is concerned, they, the Jews, are enemies for your sake. So they're your opposition. You're fighting over who the Messiah is, but they're central to your story, and they were once chosen. It's controlled opposition. Your superficial conflict, but you still are worshiping their Messiah, which was the whole goal of the Messiah to begin with. It says they're the enemies of the gospel, enemies according to the gospel, but as far as election, their chosenness is concerned, they are loved on account of the patriarchs. Doesn't sound like they hate them too much to me. Romans 15, Christ has become a servant of the Jews to fulfill the promises of the patriarchs so that the Gentiles will praise the God of Israel and be in glory. And then verse after verse, he's citing in his midrash from Isaiah, the root of Jesse, that's the Messiah, will spring up and he will rule over the Goyim. In him, the Gentiles will put their hope, which is just a citation of Isaiah 11:10, how he came up with this idea. Oh, also, they're against him. Romans 15, Gentiles have shared in the Jews' spiritual blessings by the Jews rejecting their Jewish Messiah so that he can have a blood atonement sacrifice and save the Gentiles. So the Christians owe it to the Jews to share with them their material blessings. Sounds a little controlled oppie to me.
Time.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to share screen. I'm going to go ahead and say this bluntly, but I'm going to try to say it kindly. I don't mean to be offensive.
They're satanic. I'm right. You acknowledge it.
Most Christians, in fact, 99% are probably Christians, are wrong, and they support demons who are out to destroy them. And you are unfortunately correct in the fact that most Judeo-Christians, which is not Christianity, it's allying with anti-Christianity. Judaism is essentially anti-Christianity. It's an antichrist flavor of Satanism. There are many types of Satanism. There's a lot of paganism. It all goes back to the same place, but they're not actually following the Torah. For example, here's the Pope, here's a rabbi. Both of them cover their head when they pray. The Bible says don't do that. There's a lot of other pagan shit that they do that's not in the Bible. It's anti-biblical. They follow a bunch of anti-biblical feast days that are anti-white people, and they basically are the enemies of the Bible. They do not, like I said, fulfill any of the prophecies in the Bible. It is actually, according to one of the apostles of St. John, it is absurd to profess Christ with the lips and at the same time to practice Judaism. For Christianity did not base its faith on Judaism, but Judaism on Christianity. When you actually
That's a fake quote, by the way.
When you look into actual history, actual historians and even atheist historians admit that it is all real. They just disagree on the miraculous parts and some of the beliefs, but they believe that Jesus was real and he died and he basically pissed off Rome and there was a missing body. They agree on all of that. And they agree that the followers of Jesus, who all basically were tortured to death in his name, believe what they were dying for rather than just die for a lie. There's a lot of other logical arguments against what you're saying. But the most logical of all is essentially that they are opposite religions, and Christianity blocks a lot of the bullshit and evil sin that they like to commit everywhere they are. In fact, Christians have kicked them out of 109 nations for basically eating Christian babies and doing blood sacrifice rituals. Christianity is not friendly to their actual nature, and they're not the actual people of the Old Testament. If people knew the truth, Obadiah 18 would happen immediately. And Obadiah 18 is when God says not a single Jew will survive. Whites will rise up and burn them all to death, is what the Bible says is going to happen. I'm not encouraging it, of course, but that's in Obadiah 18 when the actual tribes of Israel, the ones that fulfilled all the prophecies and the actual ones that fulfill all of the anthropological and etymological and all the other studies, basically, they will rise up from within a Jewish-controlled world that is trying to murder them all and indoctrinate their children into transgenderism. It's basically, it is biblical. It's the war of Satan and God, and the people that are trying to pervert our babies. The actual origin of transgenderism, the Talmud, where they have at least, I think, 11 different genders or so, I forget, maybe 8, I forget, but they have multiple genders in transgenderism. And that's where you get this sort of push today that no Christians want in their schools, on their children. It's from those who rule over us that have an anti-biblical religion driving them, a religion that tells them to deceive Christians, to infiltrate Christians, to corrupt their religion, and to kill them and poison them with vaccines and other poisons, and to enslave them through the courts and the laws and put them under the yoke, and get ultimate revenge and poison us all to death so that they can have their Messiah, which, according to their greatest rabbi, the Zohar, is a serpent Messiah. Total anti-biblical. Same story. They go back to Genesis with us. They are our cousins, but they are demons with the seed of the serpent. How much time do I still have? I still have 2 minutes. Cool.
Well, no, I didn't never started the clock. But are you making
time?
it's actually time. But are you making a claim or still answering the first one? lost where we
I
were.
want to mention a second part of that, which not only are they not the biblical people of Israel, but they are mentioned in the Bible many times as the enemy of the biblical people of Israel, starting with Genesis 3:15. I will put enmity between thee and the woman, between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. There is a seed war, and most Christians don't have any idea what they're talking about. Most pastors are trained at Rockefeller-funded seminaries, and pretty much Catholicism in Rome was taken over by Jews long, long ago, as long as Julius Caesar and Nero, and probably much before. They were working with them, in fact, to subdue the actual Israelite white people in the land that Rome had conquered. But, of course, there was a use of Rome to kill Jesus instead of doing it directly. They were always behind the scenes manipulating the rules, just like they do today. It was a Jewish woman that convinced Nero to kick his pregnant wife to death and set his own city on fire to blame it on the Christians. They hate us for no reason because of that verse, Genesis 3:15. In Genesis 6, there was an event where fallen angels had sex with human women. I know it may sound crazy, but just watch Ancient Aliens. They're proving giants existed. They're proving hybrid genetics. They're proving a lot of the archaeological stuff that we can't build today, we can't emulate today because it's more advanced than we are. They're disproving official history, but they're saying it's aliens. Now, we know that there's no such thing as space. At least some of us do. Some of us are not on that yet. But if you study it, it bears out there's zero evidence for a globe, zero evidence for a globe. Just like there's zero evidence for a Holocaust. There's zero actual evidence that holds up. It's all images. It's all CGI. It's all people in spacesuits underwater or in zero-grav planes and constantly having drowning episodes or bubbles or harnesses or CGI glitches and hands disappearing and dropping things when there's supposedly no gravity. And I could go on and on and on. Many of you heard this before. But, just going through some of the evils, they have destroyed most of the great civilizations. They destroyed Hellenic Greece. They destroyed Rome in many ways. They are the actual children of Satan. I mean, the psyop is great because they have inverted everything that's in the Bible. But they are anti-biblical in their actual belief systems and in their actual lifestyle. I mean, the God who says, don't hurt babies or you're going to have, it's worse for you to hurt a baby than it is for you to be thrown into the sea with a grindstone. I forget the term, a grindstone around your neck.
Millstone.
Then it, okay. So a millstone, it's easier for you to be thrown into the sea with a millstone around you than it is, which is a drowning death, a horrible drowning death, than it would be for you to hurt one of these little ones, versus the Jews that allow for child rape, child sexuality, bestiality, all these other sorts of horrible things, and have constantly been kicked out of countries for
not what that verse is about.
Child sacrifice rituals. I mean, they have always done this since before they were Jews. It's been following them since the days of the Canaanites, pre-flood, the age of Atlantis, then post-flood, the Canaanites, spreading out through all of these other nationalities, and all the ones that the Bible says kill those tribes because they're giants, that basically from Canaan. And then they've basically been caught over and over throughout historical empires and periods, and in the big ruins of child sacrifice temples doing this stuff. And it's been throughout all of human history, but especially in the last 1,000 years or so, they've been kicked out of 109 countries after being found guilty in courts of law with monarchs involved of child sacrifice and rape and etc. And I mean, horrible, horrific stuff. For example, Saint Simon of Trent.
Okay, Adam, go ahead. If you have a response to that.
Take me 2 hours to reply to all of the disinformation and false stuff that he just said right there. Let's see. How far should I back up to? Okay. This is just like the most, all of Christianity is a controlled op, and this is like the most extreme version of that controlled op. It's like from QAnon to flat earth, which is Talmudic, by the way. The Talmud endorses that the earth is the center of the universe and that the earth is flat and that there's a firmament. This is all the Jewish cosmology. The pagans and the Greeks knew that the earth was a globe and that we circled around the sun long before them. So it's like you want everybody, you're selling the Talmudic Torah, Hebrew Torah view of the world. And to say like, oh, Obadiah says that they're going to be destroyed in the end. Like you're such a, like, of all the Christians, no Christians think that. Yet when you go look at all the Jews, they almost all think this and know this and have the power and the influence. And the connections and are not getting censored and are carrying out their agenda and have all of the momentum, and they're carrying this out.
I know.
And
They believe it.
of course they believe it, and they're doing it, and they're in the positions to do this. So you can say they're not real Christians, but they're the vast majority of Christians. There is no real Christian, so there is no
Bible says
real
all
or
that.
wrong Christian. If 99% of the Christians are doing this one thing or have this one view, that's de facto Christianity. They're the
Yeah.
one with the power and the influence and the money. According to Christianity, you're the heretic. You're the anti-Semite. You're the one that's censored and has no influence, and this is a dead end and it's going nowhere, and it's only stopping people from resisting the Torah, Moshiach, God of
Like-
Zion and Israel, deception.
Let God be the truth and every man a liar. I know what's going to happen because the Bible is real. The prophecies are 100% accurate, which is what really convinced me which God was real. After I realized that there is zero evidence to hold up a globe, man. I know you haven't looked into it because there's zero evidence.
No, I definitely, I have looked into
basically,
it, and it's absurd.
They teach I thought it was too. I thought it was the dumbest thing ever because it was a distraction from actual news that I was reporting on, like election fraud, vaccine deaths, and child trafficking. Actual news.
He talked for like 10 minutes. I
Yeah,
don't want
he
to.
It's supposed to be a back
going
and
into a
forth as
flat
well.
earth spiel. It's my time to respond still. He mentioned a ton of stuff. So, to say that the white people are really the Israelites, at what point did the Israelites just go up to Europe? Number one, this is genetically ridiculous. We don't share DNA close with people from the Middle East from just 3,000 years ago. It's absurd when the rabbis say that they come from Jacob and we come from Esau, and it's absurd when you say it. It's genetically ridiculous, and there's no history of it either. Like, so the Israelites are really the white people, and then what? The Assyrians came, and are you okay? And then really they went down into Judah, or they just assimilated in, but they didn't just migrate all the way up to Europe. The people in Europe, white people with blonde hair and blue eyes, have been evolving there for tens of thousands of years. They're not. They didn't just come there a couple thousand years ago when the Assyrians took out the 10 tribes of the north, if that's even really true, because the whole tribes could be a fictional Hebrew story based on astrology.
Are you
But-
trying to share, Adam, real quick, just in case you?
No, that's him sharing.
Okay, I didn't
That's him sharing. He's not even listening. He's not even listening to what I'm saying. So at what point
I'm debating.
did all of these chosen people, these Israelites, just stop knowing that they were chosen and stop telling their kids, circumcising their kids, and knowing Hebrew? And so they were writing all these Old Testament books, the ancient Israelites, white people supposedly. Then they go up to the north and there's just nothing like, hey, we came from this area and we're the real chosen people. Nothing like that. This is just a complete baseless theory. And it's really just a desperate people that are desperate to be chosen. Everybody wants to have the birthright and be the chosen people. I think it's really quite sad to even want to adopt and appropriate their chosenness and their supremacy and their anti all the other nations of the world. Everything that I condemn and expose rabbis and Judaism for, you're saying it's all good. It's got your kosher stamp of approval, except it's just you want to rule over them. This is a complete dead end distraction, and it's going nowhere. It's only harming and is counterproductive. I'll leave it there for now.
Comments on that one? You can go back and forth if you want for a couple minutes.
Okay, so I disagree. Here's a depiction of actual ancient Israelites. They're white guys. Notice the noses. I'll try to zoom in here a little bit. Boom. This is just one example.
Esau's red. Why has he got red hair when Esau is supposed to be red?
Esau was a Hebrew and an Israelite.
But the
He was not
Edomites are
Israel. He was a Hebrew,
supposedly the
sorry.
descendants of Esau.
They are mixed with the demonic giant remnant seed of the serpent, Hittites and Canaanites, which used to have elongated skulls, double rows of teeth, 30 feet tall, 6 fingers and toes on each hand, and eat us for fun because they ruled over us like tyrant god kings. And that's
Do you
basically
really believe all this stuff, dude? Seriously?
absolutely.
You really do?
Which one you want to debate?
You've just been a Christian a few years. I feel like you've just gone off the deep end into like the Christian identity conspiracy rabbit hole.
Let's put it this way. I sure didn't choose to throw away my career and my reputation and become a raging anti-Semite calling Jews demons who rule over us. And also I look like an idiot who's going off the deep end. No, these things are actually what hold up. If you test it, and no other Christians out there who are speaking against this know what they're talking about. It's that simple. And I'm winning the debates against rabbis who think that they're the chosen people. I'm winning debates against scientists who think that the world is a globe.
So you're
undefeated.
fighting over rabbis on who is the real chosen people and who's the real Messiah, but you don't realize how you're just like two sides of the same kosher shekel.
No,
Fighting over who the king of the Jews is.
Here's how I see it. How much time do you want to give me to answer this? And what is your question specifically? I don't want to rant.
Oh, what was my question?
Also, for example,
specifically? Oh, the enmity between their seed and they will grab your heel, bash their head. That's their verse, their Kabbalistic verse about us being the seed of Satan. They believe this. They're the authors of all of these things. They're the originators. They're the ones with the secrets. They're the ones that have the upper hand today. None of this is a coincidence. They're the ones that are going to win if you play in their kosher Abrahamic paradigm, which is what you're doing. You're afraid.
So here's genetic evidence shows that actual ancient Israelites were blue-eyed, and genetic evidence shows that 97% of the 17 million of the world's Jews are not actual descendants of Abraham. When you get into the actual evidence, they have
there's probably no Abraham. So. And how would you even know that? Who's the descendant of Abraham? What they do know genetically is that even Ashkenazi and Sephardim share a lot of DNA with each other and also have a lot of DNA with other people from the Middle East as well. Not connected to us. Our DNA is from Northwestern Europe. We evolved over tens of thousands of years. We didn't just split up 2,000 years ago.
Yes, and this gets to a very, very important secret for people who want to understand the biblical part of the seed war. You can look at these verses, and this is how we get the actual Talmudic Jews, seed of the serpent. However, there is something called the seed war. They're out to kill us. They are actual demons. They control pretty much the whole world, and this is what their skulls used to look like. These were real skulls. We have the genetic evidence from these things. We have these things all over the world, almost as common as dinosaurs, but they keep getting covered up.
Yeah, where in the Bible does it say anything about people with long skulls?
Genesis 6 and about 100 other places.
What does it say?
For
they
example,
have long skulls or just...
It says that they ate us, just like the Jews have been kicked out of 109 countries.
So those big old domes are just so they can eat us? Saying they eat us isn't the same as having a big head.
It said they were. I'm telling you some of the more prevalent parts.
The Jews calling people giants was probably tiny little Seinfelds calling people like me giants because we're tall, like 6'7", 6'5". Compared to 5-foot people, you'll call them giants.
We have 30-foot skeletons on record.
Where's the good evidence for that of these skeletons? Some Smithsonian conspiracy from some conspiracy website?
Do you want to go into it? We could if it's
not really. Kazaria's disinfo. Kazaria's kosher disinfo. In fact,
no, it's 13th
not. Tribe, written by Arthur Kessler, that really promoted this. He did it to stop anti-Semitism, to say we're not Jews, we didn't kill Jesus, we're Caucasians too, we're actually white like you. Arthur Kessler was a Zionist that worked for top Zionist in Israel, Jabotinsky.
I'm not quoting Arthur Kessler.
All of the kosher QAnon people that
never
say
trusted
the Nazis
you
are secretly in charge and that all worship Jesus, they all promote Khazarian. Literally Jews all over QAnon promoting Khazaria because it takes the spotlight off of Torah Judaism and the chosen people conspiracy.
Never trusted you. In fact, Khazaria on old maps was called the land of Magog, which is mentioned in end times prophecy in the war of Gog and Magog, when they come to take over us and they'll lend to us and they'll rise up from within and they'll take over our nations and they'll basically do what the Jews did to us since the Hollow Hoax. Khazaria was a real place. You can look into it. They've tried to delete it. Yeah. They don't teach it in history school, in obviously high school or anything like that.
Do you not want this to stay up on YouTube? Because if you talk about that, Jeranism's going to put at risk his large sub counts.
Well,
do you not want people to see this? I want this to stay on YouTube, and this is going to get his channel banned or...
I'm admittedly not happy about all of the YouTube stuff. I got kicked off, and I'm not very good at it. So
Me too. I had 135,000 subs and got banned.
I'll try not to use any specific keywords.
What's how much you got up to? I'm curious.
Huh?
I've known of you for a few years.
2 years, and then they had frozen me at like 130 for over a year or something, and then they just wouldn't let me get any followers, and I was right there with you.
I was throttled and flatlined a lot too.
But basically, this seed war has been going on. All the evidence is for it. My BitChute's kind of fucked up.
And this is exactly what all the rabbis believe, but they're actually the ones with the power that are carrying this out.
Well, they have inverted things, and they're following their agenda, which is to poison and kill us. But they just switch words. That's all they do. Everything else doesn't make sense and line up. They say that they're Israelites but they're not. They don't match any of the actual descriptions of Israelites. And they say that we're Amalek and Edom, but that's who used to run their country. That's who is on their old flag where they came from. And they do all of the things that those people did in
What
the
are you
Bible.
talking about? Amalek on their flag. What do you mean by that?
I'm talking about like the land of Magog. The old Khazaria on old maps was called the land of Magog. Did you see that? I'll scroll back up.
Well, I know they think Gog and Magog is Russia, so
This is Khazaria, an old map of Khazaria. It's not a particularly good one. You can confirm this for yourselves. But older maps.
Khazaria is disinfo. That's people that's Christians come up with Khazaria because they want to say, oh, they're not the. Can
You can't even understand what's happening in Ukraine right now without understanding what happened with Khazaria. Ukrainian Rus kicked them
and I
out.
don't believe that any of the Khazaria disinfo.
No, the Ukrainian Rus kicked them out of Khazaria, which is around Mount Seir, which is where the Edomites were and where they mixed with giants. And then now they want revenge on Ukraine. And it all goes back to the same history. This is what started their so-called long wandering, where they got kicked out of 109 countries for eating Christian babies.
Okay, let's go back to
out of Khazaria.
Let's go back to the claims. I think you made yours. Adam, go ahead and make a claim.
It's my turn. No, I didn't make.
I said this
I
is
want
your
to
turn.
respond to him in the synagogue of Satan stuff that he showed me because this is important.
Okay. So you got 2 minutes. Make it
I got to share.
compact.
Well,
Yes,
I won't
go
need
ahead.
a whole 2 minutes. We can do back and forth, but I just want to talk about what I
Okay.
want to talk about.
We'll start out the claim. Make the claim first.
Okay. All right. So
Are you
all
sure?
of the
Okay,
Christian
good.
anti-Semites love to cite this thing. Mind you, this is Revelation is an apocalyptic Jewish text. And this, here, we're going to go to this one first. Oops. So Revelation 2:9. You look at 2:8. This is addressed to the church in Smyrna. So it's a church. It says, I know your afflictions of your poverty, yet you are rich. I know about the slander of those who say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Do not be afraid of what you are about to suffer, like the Jews suffered in exile. I tell you, the devil will put some of you in prison to test you. They see Jesus as playing the role of their adversary, of Satan, who tempts them and then accuses them of sin. He tempts them to idol worship, consuming foods worship to idol, like it says here in a second, and to not follow the commandments, not keep kosher, not circumcise. It's a test. That's the test of while they're in exile in Edom. And then it says, and you will suffer persecution for 10 days, like the Jews have been persecuted, not the Christians, according to the last 2,000 years of everybody. Be faithful even to the point of death, and I will give you your life as your victor's crown. Those are the words of him who has the sharp double-edged sword. I know where you live, where Satan has his throne. They think that is Christianity, the city of blood that consumes blood, which is in violation of their commandments. Nevertheless, I have a few things against you. There are some among you who you hold to the teaching of Balaam. In the Talmud, that's when they're talking about Jesus. They're talking about linking it to him. Balaam is the one that had the prophecy, the star prophecy about the Messiah that conquers the world also. And what do? They entice the Israelites to sin. This is what they accuse Jesus of in the Talmud. It's in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Balaam or Satan cast a net to ensnare the Israelites to tempt them into consuming blood. This is what Christianity is. It's the counterpart, antithetical, antithesis religion that is their mirror opposite. And then it talks about food sacrifice to idols. Paul even talks about that, food sacrifice to idols. That's what they were fighting about, because he says that you don't need to keep kosher and all foods are okay. So look at this, what it says, though. Those who say they are Jews and are not. I thought you said the Jews are the bad guys. So now the Jews are the good guys, and it's only the fake pretend Jews that you have the problem with. Do you see the problem there?
Can I respond, Adam?
Yes, but just very clearly for the audience, do
Okay, so
people understand that when it says they say they are Jews, but they're not? So the Jews are good, and then it's only the fake Jews that are the problem.
Okay,
It doesn't say they. Hold on. It doesn't say they say they are Hebrew Israelites and are not, and they are really Esau. It says this, and it's literally cryptically talking about Christianity and the church and the religion of Esau, the evil twin religion. Go ahead.
You're reading an edited copy. Remember, the whole point I've been making the whole time, and the only evidence that you brought the whole time was the Bible, which you don't.
Where's the copy? Where's the
Propaganda.
translation that says something different that proves me wrong?
I just told you it's easy to confirm and to test that
What translation? What translation?
Dead Sea Scrolls, for example, original actual translations of the Bible, which you can find. Some of the translations that survive, not the originals, of course, which is actually beneficial to our claim, not harmful. But you can still find some of those original manuscripts, and you can do the actual homework to test this for yourself. The word Jew did not appear in original Bibles. They injected it, and they took God's name out. They hate God. That's why they did this. And you can't just use the Bible the whole time and say Jew, 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 which was all changed words as evidence, because you've presented no actual.
It's such a cope, and it's not. It said Yehudi
using
and
the Bible
Yehudim,
to
Jews.
try to debunk the Bible the whole time.
It's semantics. And here, to finish off the Revelation 3:9 too, because you hear this all the time, and it's literally out of context in the actual inversion, and reveals the deception. Behold, I will make them a synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. So the Jews
That's
are
them.
good, and it's only the pretend Jews again. But listen, here's the important part that nobody ever
Israelites who
reads.
lie. Let me try it. Can I address that part?
Okay, address
Let him
that, but
finish.
this is the important part that nobody ever reads.
When you're ready.
I will make them come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved these. That is talking about the Christians will be Noahides, and Esau will repent and then grab the Jews by their teat, and then say, "We heard God is with you," like Zechariah, and then follow them. That's what it's talking about. I will make them, the Christians and the Gentiles, worship before thy feet, the Jews' feet. That's what this is actually about.
No, brother. Can I respond?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you scroll back up a little bit, you were talking about where the seed of Satan dwells. In that time period, that would be Turkey, and that's where the Sephardic Jews, the Khazarians' cousins, fellow Idumean Edomites, existed. They invited their Khazarian buddies and cousins into the Old Testament people con as soon as they could, and that's kind of how they basically reunited over historical periods. Same bloodline, same tribe, same noses, same lifestyle and culture, and same sort of bloody sacrifice habits. And you can look into, for example, what the Romans found when they overcome the Carthaginians. That was a Phoenician, Edomite, Jewish-controlled semi-capital right there, and they found things that turned even their stomachs. But in essence, no, that was not about that. Can you share the verse again, if you don't mind? It was not
Romans
about what you
3:9 or 2:9.
Well, basically, the Jews who claim they are Jews and are not Jews. I mean, we actually
Okay, well, they both say that, yeah.
So basically, it's giving you a warning right there, and it doesn't say the Jews who claim they're Jews. It said the Israelites who claim they're Israelites. But this is a very flexible term, because if I were to say the Americans that said they're Americans and are not, or the Europeans who said they are Europeans and are not, or the Germans who said they are Germans and are not, or the Polish who said they are Polish and are not, or the Russians who said they are Russians and are not, a lot of people historically are going to understand what the hell I'm talking about. And that's exactly what they are. They are the people who say they are and are not. They're the name stealers, which is the point I've been making the entire time. God warned you about them right there in those pages, brother.
Okay, you can
No,
go.
he's not. All those pages are about conquering the Gentiles for the chosen people, including Paul,
Inversion.
the foundation of the New Testament in Christianity.
Inversion. You push their inversion.
No, you're inverting and mirroring their madness so that you're not exposing their madness, and you're distracting people
inversion.
from the core issue. That's how I see it. So what translation does it say Israelites? They say they're Israelites, but they're not, because I don't see that anywhere. I'm looking through all of them right now.
A lot of the traditional atheist, or especially new atheist arguments, would be that a lot of these prophecies are fake and they just wrote them later, and it just looks really good because, historically that makes sense, but it was written after the fact, not before the fact. But the Dead Sea Scrolls blow all of that crap right out of the water. It proves that these things were original and they were divine and they were inspired.
No, the Dead Sea Scrolls prove that Christianity wasn't original, that it evolved and developed out of these same motifs and ideas as that are in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Things are not unique to Jesus and Christianity. They actually prefigure them in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Very likely that Paul was aware of the Dead Sea Scrolls and used a lot of their ideas.
It proves the prophecies were there beforehand, for example, with David and others. And also it proves the age. Now, a lot of people say that Christianity was based off paganism, and no, that's not the case at all. In fact, there are Thracian manuscripts that are pre-Sumerian that actually do reference Eden and the one God. Christianity was basically the original religion of mankind, and then it was perverted by the fallen angels' giant offspring, which basically ruled over us and enslaved us, which led to the flood, Genesis 6, because all flesh was corrupted. And then in the post-flood world, God's people were told to leave nothing alive of the Jews, and they did not do it. They failed. And therefore, these things survive. They spread around the world, and we have a deep state that sacrifices and eats babies and puts that crap in our schools and education and movies and entertainment and video games and everything else. Now, There is a culture war. There's a sin war, and they're evil. They're satanic. They're Talmudic, but they're not Torah, and they don't keep the morals or the doctrines of Torah. And if you test the doctrines or the spirits, you'll know them pretty quickly. If you test their holidays, they're anti-Christian in the way that they express them often. For example, their Purim holiday, I mean, their favorite thing to dress up as, I'm sure you know this, on Purim is the Twin Towers in Israel.
The reason this, just since you mentioned Purim, they say blot out his name for Haman. He's the king of the Amalekites in the Purim story, and that's why they say the same thing about Jesus. They use the same Septuagint word in the book of Esther for his hanging as they use for Jesus's hanging as well, or crucifixion. He is the new Haman. He is the new Amalek, Esau, satanic leader of satanic Rome. This is what they've always believed. This is why they targeted Rome with Christianity, and they're carrying this out. You even admit the vast majority of Christians are satanic. The Pope wears a small hat and is satanic. So they're playing the role perfectly of the adversary Messiah. He's the villain in their story that becomes the hero and is becoming Judaized and is turning in a Noahide compliant anti-Roman type of Jewish Jesus. This is
they're trying to outlaw him and kill everybody that follows him, and they've been doing that.
No, they don't want him for Jews. He's bad for Jews, but he's good for the Gentiles.
No, they want to outlaw him.
He's meant to conquer the Gentiles. They're proud of him. That's where they're getting Noahides is from Christians.
But it outlaws. No, Noahide has nothing to do with Noah. It's just Jewish propaganda. But it outlaws.
They literally cite some of the Noahide laws in Acts when James tells Peter. Tells Paul to go to the Gentiles to teach them
their
Noahide.
worldview. No, you're not even allowed to be a Christian in their Noahide law worldview, New World Order. Like, it will behead you for idolatry.
You just can't believe in the Trinity. You can't be anti-Semitic, and you can't believe in the Trinity. That's the big problem they have was the Trinity.
Idolatry gets you beheaded.
Trinity idolatry, saying a man is God. Yes, and they
Jesus
added that in
God,
so that Jews would not be idolatrous. It's the temptation to idolatry.
Christians claim that Jesus is God, so there's going to be a little bit of a problem here.
Right, that's the problem.
They're
That's
going to
the big
outlaw
difference.
and kill Christians, not embrace it as something useful to them, which destroys their entire cultural outlook and desire to like sexualize children and all this.
And even the New Testament says they'll be flogged in the synagogues, they'll be beheaded for the testimony of Jesus. And you think that's a win for the Christians to be beheaded for believing Jesus is God?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Listen, Romans 9, if anybody just wants to know about how clear it is, if you think Saul the Pharisee is legitimate and has authority, just read Romans 9 and Romans 11. And it is so clear that only a remnant of Israel will be saved. That means only a little bit of the Jews will believe in Jesus, but that means they're Israel. He doesn't say they're secretly Edom. He says they're Israel.
He said, where I go, you cannot follow to them. They are demons. They're not allowed in. I want to address a specific historical example of why Christianity and Judaism don't go well together, and why they hate Christianity and want it outlawed.
They're opposition, but it's controlled opposition because they worship the Torah Messiah like they always wanted. They believe the Torah is the word of God. They worship the God that chose the Jews. So it's opposition, but it's controlled. It's limited.
Took away their slaves,
it's in the Abrahamic paradigm.
We took away
false
slaves.
Dichotomy. Yeah.
For example, so the Western world Christians, William Wilberforce largely led the charge, ended slavery. We took away the slaves that were 80-90% Jewish slave dominated and slave ship dominated. They were the
Torah commands slavery, so we're not following the Torah, I guess.
They were the owners, they were the traders, they were the shippers, they were the industry of slavery, and we stopped them. We took away their slaves. That's just one example.
But you want Esau to be your slave, though. You're Jacob. And the elder shall serve the younger, so you want Esau to serve you. So you still believe in slavery.
Now tens of millions of Christians are standing up to them in schools because of what they're trying to do in the schools with transgenderism, which is straight out of the Talmud. Christianity and Talmud are constantly butting heads.
Christianity is becoming more woke and progressive and LGBTQ and Zionist and Noahide by the day, my friend. Are you not watching what's going on? Do you not see all our politicians? Do you not see all of our leaders going to the wall and bowing down? And you're going to deny that Christianity is a kosher psyop?
No, it's
when all that's happening,
which is exactly what the Bible says. That's why only a remnant survive, and that's why I'm here to try to wake up that remnant.
Okay, let's go to your second claim.
That's talking about a remnant of the Jews. A remnant of who?
Israelites.
Of Israel.
They changed the word. I'm telling you, they changed the word.
Okay, listen. Like I said, Romans 9 and 11. This is so crucial. Every other verse in this book here discredits what you're saying. Okay, it says Paul says he has
the Bible. which they changed the word Jew.
I'm
to
using your own book, which is all Hebrew fairy tales, to disprove your own argument. Look, it says, Paul says he has great sorrow. Explain me this. He says, the people of Israel, not Edom, theirs is the adoption to sonship. He's talking about the Jews. There's the divine glory, the covenants, the receiving of the law, the temple worship, and the promises. Theirs are the patriarchs, and from them is traced the human ancestry of the Messiah, who is God over all forever praise. He says, for not all who are descended from Israel are Israel, saying that the Gentiles also can be Israel. It is not the children of the physical descent who are God's children, but it is the children of the promise who regarded as Abraham's offspring. Talking about the Gentiles being grafted in. And then he even says, the older will serve the younger. Jacob I love, but Esau I hated. He's talking about the Gentiles are Esau. He doesn't call the Jews Esau. The Gentiles are Esau.
No, he's not.
Hold on, look. And then he goes verse after verse from Isaiah. Yeah, he does. Look.
No, he's not.
Esau, Jacob I love, but Esau I hated. Not every descendant of Abraham is chosen, i.e., the Gentiles could also be adopted into Abraham by their faith. Paul's extension, not every Gentile is rejected. He's likening the Gentiles to Esau. And not to mention, Jesus said he came from the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Paul says that the Jews are Israel and chosen and are the prophets of God. And Jesus compares the Samaritan, the Gentiles, to getting crumbs, the sloppy seconds, just because we have faith. And then Romans 11.
That was it. He was speaking to a Jewish woman.
No, he's speaking to a Samaritan woman.
No.
Yes.
Are you talking about the woman who begged for her daughter to be
Samaritan woman.
She was an Edomite.
No, you're confused.
I'm fairly
Samaritan.
Because
hold on. Romans 11. Look at this. This kills what you say right here. The debate over. Did God reject his people, the Jews? By no means. I am an Israelite myself and a descendant of Abraham from the tribe of Benjamin. God did not reject his people whom he foreknew. Paul is saying that the Jews are not rejected by God and they are his people. That means the Jews are the Israelites.
Oh, he says right there,
case
Israelites
closed.
are God's people, not Jews.
He's talking about the Jews here, though.
Now, Jews are one of
Yes.
12 tribes, supposedly according to their lies. Now, the Israelites are the other tribes as well. And he's saying Israel. It says right there in front of you, Israel. Now, they didn't change everywhere because it wouldn't have made sense.
You're saying that the Edomites rejected Jesus, and Paul says the people of Israel, the elect among them, did believe in Jesus, but the others were hardened. And then he cites a prophecy about how the Jews are supposed to reject their Messiah. They reject their Messiah to reverse psychology, trick the Gentiles into following this Messiah.
Most white people rejected Jesus throughout history.
No, they targeted it's spread across the Western world, conquered the Western world for the God of Israel and the King of the Jews, and the Jews are very happy about this. They say their prophecies couldn't be fulfilled if not for Christianity and Islam.
The world, the world was a world of pretty much like the Zeuses of the world, sacrificing children in the open, Saturnalia blood sacrifice events, Easter blood sacrifice events. All these things happened until Jesus came and ended all that stuff and drove it underground. And then pretty much for the last 2,000 years.
Ended it, but he didn't end it. He drove it underground, and now Satan and the Jews still rule the world. And Jesus is waiting up in heaven to come down and save us in the end. Trust the plan. Hey, trust the plan, Dustin.
Let me finish.
Jesus,
if you want,
Yeshua's going to save us.
And if
the
you
Jews told us so.
Let me finish, man. And if you want to, I forget where it's even at now. I mean, that
was just too crucial. Trust the plan. The Jews told it. We're going to win in the end.
Do you guys need a break, or are you okay?
So basically,
wait, hold on, time out, Dustin. I want to move on to the next claim as long as you guys are good to go, or do you need a break?
Basically, his whole argument is to accept that where the word was changed, that it all means them, and it doesn't. It doesn't mean any of it. None of it actually means them. It all was changed. You can look at it was edited, and that's it. And that's his whole argument.
Why are you so desperate to be a chosen person? In my view, you're just like the rabbis. You want me to bow down to your Messiah. You think that you're chosen by God.
I was an atheist my whole life. I had no dog in this fight. Well, I was actually anti-theist. I've never lost a debate against religious people. I'm ashamed to say.
Well, I hope your tithes are good from all the Christians.
No, okay. I've lost 6 figures a month because I've been telling the truth.
Yeah, I've lost a lot as well too for exposing the Jesus deception. Here's one more. My final point, and then he can.
Jews
he
must
can
love that because they hate Jesus. Man.
No, they don't. They hate him, but they love the fact that the Gentiles
You're
follow him because that
reinforcing
was the
their
plan
biggest
all along.
lie, though. And when you see it, you're going to be like, "Oh no!"
I've got a whole video about how they really actually love Jesus and what he did.
I have a whole 300-hour documentary series about how they're not.
300-hour. Okay, you can see the screen, right? Again,
Sorry, yes,
that's
I can.
proof that the Jews are supposedly the Israelites. Okay, he says you're do not talking to the Christians. Paul says, do not consider yourself to be superior to those other branches. If you do, consider this: you do not support the root, but the root supports you. Saying the Jews support you Christians is what.
No, this is saying if you're Asian or Hispanic or some other race that you're grafted in, it doesn't mean you're better than the white Christians who've been letting God down constantly because they basically failed him constantly. And that's why they were punished. That's why they forgot. That's why they finally got America and the UK and all those other European nations exactly according to prophecy, if you do the math. Because God's prophecies are 100% accurate. Only religion that can claim it. That's why I'm a Christian and not a Buddhist. Because when I found out God was real, I looked into them and I found out this is the only one that has legitimate miracles and prophecies in the Bible. And it's the only one that history.
What prophecies?
Super
What's
accurate.
the biggest prophecy that's fulfilled?
So a popular one that you referenced earlier, for example, you said was debunked, but isn't, is the prophecies of Daniel. There's a number of them, but they're super accurate when it comes to history. And people atheists like to claim that it happened and then it was written, but it didn't. It was written and then it happened. And it was actually written in such a blind way that he had no idea what he was talking about. And then it happened in such specific accuracy that it alarms people even today. And scholars have no way of explaining it.
No, we do have a way of explaining it. They made up a story to fulfill the prophecies. That's the simple Occam's razor explanation that doesn't require any magical Jews. You believe Jews have magical prophetic powers. I don't. That's the big difference.
I mean, they made up the fall of Rome and Greece.
No, they helped facilitate it, but through Christianity.
No, they prophesied each of those things in high detail, specifically before time and hundreds of years advanced. Every time the prophecies are real. Hundreds of years, thousands of years.
They believe that America is Rome and we're about to be destroyed. Yeah, they do.
In some cases, they bought into the lie, but in their own circles, they teach that they're Edom. They teach
they don't, dude. There's no proof of that, and it's absolutely asinine to think that they secretly believe that they're Edom.
That a bunch of others about it. There's tons of proof.
They think we're Edom. They think we're satanic, and they want us to be destroyed.
where we're getting muted here. If you can hear my voice, put a 5. Put a 5 in the chat. Just 1 5 in the chat. If you can hear my voice right now, the only thing that should be muted is Pilled itself, so I can watch the chat and stuff. But there shouldn't be anything else that is muted as of right now. And let me set the audio here. Microphone headset, communication, headphones, audio output. Okay. Audio input. Why is shit changing? What the fart? Alright, let's see what you guys are people. 5, you can hear my voice. Okay, so that's good. Okay. You guys can hear that. Alright, so you can hear my voice. That's good. Then you should be able to... I went ahead and paused the show. There's 33 minutes left in the show. I think they're doing their final remarks. So I did pause it. So let's see if that fixed it here. Jesus, I paused the show. There's 33 minutes left in the show. I think they're doing their final remarks. So I did pause it. So let's see if that fixed it here. No, it didn't. I'll be looking for. Great. I don't. It's probably Rockfin at this point then, or maybe Jaredism accidentally hit the pause button, or the sound button. Okay, so Pilled is working fine. It's the recording. All right, fantastic. Okay, so I'm gonna play it anyways. Let's see, record a little bit. Nope. It's the recording. It's this here. Let's see here. Yeah, see. Why is it? Yeah, this is on Rockfin. I can't get anything from this, even when I go back to earlier recordings. So where is this stuff? Okay, that's fine. It's worked. It's working. All right, we're going back to 2 hours. I can hear it. Can you guys hear it? I can hear it on my side. I don't. Okay. Well, hopefully you guys can actually hear this. Fuck. Let's see here. No, it's Pilled. Yeah, it's Pilled. Pilled's messing up right now. because I'm playing it through Pilled right now, the audio, and maybe this time. Catch up from here. No, it's Pilled, guys. I don't know what's going on. Try to refresh, I guess. I don't know. No, it'll, no, it'll sound bad if I go through the microphone here. So thanks, Pilled. Appreciate it. Can see the audio, but can't hear the fucking debate is the whole point of this show. This is the second time during the stream that this shit's gone on, and there's a pattern going on that every single time that I seem to be on, and I'm resetting everything. You know, I know enough to fuck some shit up, but so that's it, folks. If Pilt's not going to allow us to play the last 30 minutes, then I guess they can go fuck themselves. So I don't know what's going on. I tried to refresh. I've shut the program down, pulled it back up, all that kind of stuff. So have a good night. Thank you for coming in. As a matter of fact, I'll show you my face here. Ta-da! I'm here. Ta-da! So thanks for coming in. We appreciate it. The whole point of different perspectives is to have different perspectives on Pill, because there isn't enough of that. There seems to be just a couple of perspectives, and if you don't believe any of that kind of stuff, then a big fuck you and get off the platform. So I say screw that. I'm going to show different perspectives, because that's what we're designed. We should be able to handle this without having our emotions or our fifis hurt. So. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. I'm going to continue to bring different perspectives, whether they're popular or not popular. I don't give a shit, because it needs to be said, it needs to be done. And Pull is what it was really good. I don't know what's going on, so I'm not going to go find another copy of it and then go to 2 hour mark. I'm just not going to do that. It's getting late already. So have a good night. Appreciate it. Tomorrow there's going to be, if you guys want to find the last 30 minutes, go ahead and find it yourselves. It's out there on the internet. You can find it. Dustin Demos versus Adam Green. But tomorrow I have Disconnect Theater. I don't know I think after I get off here, I'll figure out what kind of movies we're gonna watch. I know people liked the Quentin Tarantino tribute. We do other directors. Stanley Kubrick, M. Night Shyamalan, some other names that have multiple produced, written, acted in films. So I don't know exactly what I'm going to do for the videos, but nevertheless, we're going to we'll start at noon tomorrow. All right, and noon meaning 1 o'clock East Coast time, noon, CST. And 10 o'clock on the West Coast. So everyone be well. Have a good night. I'm going to go ahead and lead you out with some of my own stuff. But music and whatnot. So have a good night. I hope everybody, we're not calling lawyers or whatever. But have a wonderful night.